Magnet television.
Magnet television.
Magnet television.
You're watching Magnet television because what else are you going to do?
My all-time favourite song, ever since I was 13, is Visions of Johanna by Bob Dylan from this record, Blonde on Blonde. It's a double album, and I love it so much that I have at least 2 copies. Here they are. I think one's stereo and one's mono. When I first had it, there were no stereos even. The Visions of Johanna is what led me into wanting to be a songwriter. And I still listen to it probably once a week. It's a fantastic polar contrasts of moods. It's both really sad and very funny. Bob Dylan at his best. And for me, it's always been a template for songwriting. The version here on Blonde, and there's quite a few of them, has got quite a sort of driving beat. It's almost danceable, you know. If you want to go somewhere and never have to come back, I recommend Visions of Johanna. It's seen me through nearly 55 years, and I'm sure it will see me out and into the next universe and possibly the one after that. On ya, Bob.
My favorite song of all time is Just Like a Woman by Bob Dylan. I just think it's kind of, there's something about just the way that it's put together, and I teach it in my songwriting class, and it's gorgeous on paper, and it's great to sing. It feels good to sing. It's just about everything a song should be, as far as I can tell.
Buckets of Rain, which is the last song on Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks. Because it's simple. I've always loved simplicity, and like my personal artistic mission has a lot to do with simplicity. It's bittersweet. You know, it's got that incredible, I guess for me, what really seals the deal is that line where he's talking about the object of his affection. I like the smile on her fingertips. I like the way she moves her hips. I like the cool way she looks at me. Everything about her is bringing me misery. To me, that is the perfect song lyric because it explains the pain and the ache of love and of yearning, and that's kind of like I think for me that's like the sweet spot of all lyrics.
We played a show with Bob Dylan and Phil Lesh, and I was standing off the side of the stage. I met the manager. He was really nice. The show went fine, and afterwards, Dylan was walking off stage, and I was standing like 100 feet away, and the manager, he stopped to talk to Phil Lesh, and I think that was one of the only times he talked to Phil on the whole tour. And then the manager, he's like gesticulated. It was like, come over here. So I went over and I was like walking up to Bob Dylan, and Bob started to walk away. And then the manager was like, said something. This is where it all gets weird. He said something to Bob like, this is Ryan. He plays in Guster, and he opened up the show. And I looked in Bob Dylan's eyes, and I looked in them, and they were like right there. And I say, you have to look in the camera. Where's the camera? He looked into his eyes, and I saw them, and they were amazing. And I shook his hand, and I have no idea what I said. I think it was like really bumbly, like your music is important to me, or just something so stupid. But I remember he kind of gave me this smirk, and he saw me. He wasn't trying to rush me off. So it was kind of transcendent and beautiful, but also embarrassing. I wish I had said something else, but I don't even remember what I said. I was so nervous. I wish I could do it over. Sorry, Bob Dylan.
Tangled Up in Blue by Bob Dylan. Such a great song, obviously. I know all the words. I played it live a few times. It's great on a lot of levels. I mean, just the performance, man, right there. There's a point in the song where he talks about when finally the bottom fell out, and there's a mistake there. I think it's a bass mistake or a guitar mistake, and the bottom falls out of the song. I love things like that. I like the spontaneity of it. The words are great because they just shift from time and place, from different perspective, first person, third person, and you never really know where you are if you can picture it the whole time. So That's a big favorite. Just genius songwriting. It's I've seen it compared to Picasso, and that's fair enough. It is Cubist. It's a Cubist song, and I like it. Oh, I also should mention it's sort of one of many songs that my wife Linda and I have as our song. Being musicians and music fans, we have a lot of our songs, but that might be the main one. So, favorite song, Tangled Up in Blue.
Idiot Wind is one of my favorite songs of all time. It is wild, furious. It says all the things I think you want to say but don't say because they're inappropriately cruel. It's also like super punk rock. I mean, Dylan is anyway. The recording on Blood on the Tracks is so just sexy. The way he tells the story is 7.5 or something minutes long, and it's one of those songs that seems much shorter, and then also like it lasts a lifetime. And he's cruel, but then he at the end, he turns the camera on himself as well. I can't help it if I'm lucky. The lines from it are incredible.
My all-time favorite song, obviously, is a hard question, but the first one that comes to mind, just in terms of like impact on me as a songwriter, is probably Mr. Tambourine Man. I just remember really like in high school and even before that, like listening to that song and really breaking down the lyrics and like specifically like to dance beneath the diamond sky with one hand waving free, silhouetted by the sea. I just remember being like, oh, songwriting can be this really like beautiful, picturesque thing, and I don't know, I've always been really inspired by that song.
In 1997, in Normal, Illinois, where I grew up, Bob Dylan came to town for the first time, and he played the Redbird Arena. He had just released the album Time Out of Mind, which I think got him his first Grammy, which is crazy. It may not have been his first, but anyway, he won a Grammy for that record, Time Out of Mind. Produced by Daniel Lanois. And definitely was a concept album. I mean, it seemed like a guy who had either recently been, or maybe more tragically, for a long period of time, been haunted by the love or the absence of love, the heartbreak from this fallout relationship with a woman. And almost every song on the record is just gut-wrenching. Except for maybe a couple. Lush guitars, like 3, 4, 5 guitars in there. Danny Lanois is always so good at interweaving the instruments and just making it sound seamless. So many instruments, but yeah, they just sound so cohesive. Piano and organ on almost every song as well. Yeah, just gorgeous and moody and sexy and sad. It's a record that I listen to, especially when I get down, especially when I go through a breakup, which those things seem to just come around, right? So I've been listening to that record, I think, not consistently, thankfully, but yeah, that's a go-to record of mine, and it was Dylan that really, I think, got me into playing music. His versatility, he can play so many different kinds of music, and at this point, what do you even really call him? You call him rock and roll, rock and roller? Do you call him a folk singer? Certainly probably can't call him a folk singer anymore. But the foundation of his music was based on so many different styles, not just American, around the world. So that got me into looking into different styles. Looking back into blues and jazz and country and so on, so forth. And this album being his favorite, or my favorite, and that says a lot for what that record means to me. My favorite artist, the guy who got me started playing. So, yeah, if you haven't heard Bob Dylan's Time Out of Mind, check it out. But hide the whiskey when you do.
Cine.